And we apparently have the congressman who's just called in, and we'll just come back to this story later. Let's get to him where we have more time. Good morning, Congressman.
Good morning. Glad to be back in West Texas.
Are you in the hub today?
I'm in the hub. I flew into Abilene and met with some folks early Monday morning and met with some cotton farmers in Haskell County there in Stamford, and then went to Ash, Vermont to talk to a Democrat judge. So I don't want anybody accusing me I don't talk to Democrats. I had a great visit with Judge Moorhead out there. He's a fine American, and then back here to the hub city. So,
well, tell me this: were the farmers down there in Stamford and around that area, the cotton farmers, were they happy? Did they have a big smile on their face?
You know, they're smiling, but it's not a full smile where you can see all their teeth, so because they're not sure that they'll have a good year every year. If they ever get a 15, 16 year without the farm bill with cotton in it, they know that they'll go the way of the buffalo. So I think that the yield's good, the price is better, so we'll live to farm another day, but we've got to get cotton back in, and that's what we were talking about. We actually cut a little social media clip so they can help me tell the story to the rest of the American people.
Well, there's a lot of things going on in Washington nowadays, and we've got probably more to talk about than we have time. Tax reform. That's the top of the agenda right now, is it not?
Yeah, it is, for a number of reasons. Number one, we've got to increase wages, and we've got to give the American middle and working class families a break, give them an opportunity to have not just keep more of their paycheck, but have higher family income, better jobs with better pay, and we need to be competitive. Yep. We need American businesses and corporations to be able to compete instead of losing jobs and losing capital overseas. That's what's been happening.
Well, Congressman, the question I have, and I'm not clear on this, but I'm guessing when we're talking about tax cuts, that this is like we're going to get no help from the Democrats. Is that right?
I don't see any Democrats stepping up and helping on this. I think there seems to me that they want more spending, and they're going to want a lot more spending to negotiate. And we're $20 trillion in debt. I'm not interested in increasing. Even when we do this tax, it needs to be budget neutral. I mean, we need to do the dynamic scoring and assume the growth, but we also need to find offsets. So even if I'm negotiating with my Republican colleagues, I want tax cuts down the line for every income group and for our businesses to grow the economy. But I don't want this to increase deficit spending because you've heard me before. I think that's the biggest threat to our kids, and it's wrong to do to our kids to hand them a country that's basically insolvent.
Well, tell me this. This tax reform is going to be something that will be very, very complex. And when we see what happened with our rhinos, I'll call them for lack of a better term, when we negotiated the Obamacare thing, it just seems like that this may be a long shot to get some of these Republicans on board, which apparently we're going to have to pass this.
Well, you're right. I mean, I don't blame. I mean, I'm in the same boat. Even though I'm a member of Congress, we passed it, and I was on the committee that initiated health care reform and the repeal of the failed health care system that was known as Obamacare. We passed it out of the House in May. We gave ample time for the Senate, and John McCain and others have voted to repeal it when it didn't matter, and then they couldn't repeal it when it did.
All right.
And
exactly.
You're right. The American people, I've lost confidence in my colleagues over there to get anything meaningful out of what we've run on in terms of our conservative agenda. But I'll say this: if we don't get tax reform and at least pass it out of the House and prepare it, tee it up for the Senate in the new year, I think the midterm elections are not going to break our way, and I think we're going to lose the opportunity to have a unified conservative majority to continue to get our country back and and to continue to advance the conservative principles we believe so deeply in West Texas. So lots is on the line. A lot is on the line here with tax reform, just beyond economic growth.
So before the tax reform even gets done, you've got to get the budget through, right? Is there any snags looking as far as the budget's concerned?
That's correct. We passed the budget out of the House, as you know, recently, and I'm very, very pleased about that because that's a product I've been working on in the Budget Committee for several months, and it rebuilds the military, lowers deficit spending, and gets at that national debt. But then it also puts in play tax reform as in reconciliation, which is kind of a sidecar piece to the budget. So it's over in the Senate now. And, as you've already alluded to, makes me nervous anytime we send something to the Senate that's important. But I do think they know what's at stake, and all I can do is push them, implore them, pressure them. I'll do whatever it takes. But we cannot fail to get this tax reform through.
Yeah, Kate's law is over in the Senate too, and I don't think they're going to do anything on that either. And that seems like a no-brainer as far as I'm concerned. But
absolutely, I mean, listen, we've sent a lot of no-brainer legislation on regulatory reform. I mean, Dodd-Frank, I mean, that is an abomination. We've created the CFPB. We've created an unconstitutional agency. We've basically taken relationship banking out and just ruined community banks. So there's a ton of things we've sent over there. We've passed over 300 bills, more than any House in any Congress since Harry Truman, and most of them have gone over to the Senate to languish or die. But, today's a new day, and I'm prayerful and hopeful, and I'm going to do my job to continue to push. We're not going to give up.
Congressman, let's take a break right here, and if you'll hold on, we'll be back to you in just a few moments.
You bet. Thanks, guys.
News Talk 95.1 FM and 790 AM. We are KFYO Mornings with Dave King and Matt Martin, and we're going to go back to the phones right now. Congressman, we're back after the break, and I do want to ask you about the honor flight. That is something that's near and dear to my heart. I was on the very first committee to send the first flight in 2012. A lot of nail biting back then, so we didn't know if we were going to have the money to do it, but we did, and it seems like that it is now really taken off and has a life of its own. So you got to meet with the honor flight in Washington. Isn't that correct?
I did, and I've been looking forward to this for months, and my family was there. My children were holding up the sign, welcome West Texas veterans. We gave them a West Texas veteran hat, and nothing has given me greater honor than to serve our veterans on the VA committee. And I got to share some of the things we were doing to support our veterans and improve our services, which is another story about broken bureaucracy and failed promises. But these guys are heroes. And really, I wanted my kids to absorb the character of these guys, the stories they had, because a lot of the World War II folks, in 10 years, how many World War II vets will we even have around? So I cherished every moment with them. I hugged every one of them. I took a picture with all of them. There was over 100. Talked to them on the House floor about my first several months and took questions and it was awesome. And my main thing was just to say, we love you, we appreciate you, we thank God for your service, and we wouldn't have this great experiment in liberty and democracy without our freedom fighters. And as they say, all gave some gave all, but those memorials are erected for them. And I said, welcome to your nation's capital. Those memorials are for you. Go remember and just be blessed and Godspeed. So yeah. It was a great time.
Well, now, did they get a coin when they left?
There's a lot of folks give these coins out. The military gives coins. I don't give coins. Yeah. That's just not my thing. I give flags. I give flags that I wear on the House floor when I vote, and I give veterans hats.
Well, have you had a chance to see some of the video of the homecoming?
No, I have
Well,
not.
I advise you, if you get a few minutes, maybe go to kcbd.com and take a look at the homecoming Welcome Home. I mean, Lubbock and this area has taken ownership of Honor Flight, and there were hundreds and hundreds of people there with banners and flags, and
Wow.
we had a band playing for them as they got off the plane Sunday night. And I'll tell you, I can assure you, being associated with so many flights as I have, that many of these men will tell you that it was the trip of a lifetime. It's
Dave,
something-
thank you for your service to that community of West Texans and Americans, and I know you were involved. You're a volunteer, and man, I don't think there's anything a better cause than to serve and love on our veterans and honor them. And I will watch that video. In fact, I'm going to have a public forum today at noon at the Science Spectrum, and some of those guys told me they were going to be there. So
that'd be great.
Yeah, I hope they can report back on their experience.
Well, I tell you, I have to say that I do believe that it's the most consequential thing I've done in my life. It is incredible.
I believe it. I feel the same way just being there to receive them and walk them into the Capitol. And I didn't do much. I wish I could do more, but I took a picture with them all. I'm sending them with a personal note. And, you just can't do enough for these guys.
That's true. You're absolutely right.
So, Congressman, I'm going to shift gears just a second. One thing that I've heard a lot of worry about is this bump stock legislation, or so-called, that's going through that seems extremely broad. Can you talk about that a little bit and kind of what's going on with that as far as it getting through the House there?
Well, my position has been, first of all, let's get the facts before we react. I think I am a defender of our Second Amendment rights. I always worry about things that make it, the bad guys that are hell-bent on evil, they'll find a way to get whatever they need to do it. But the good guys, then, we make it harder for them to defend themselves and their families. And so I'm the threshold for regulating or limiting our Second Amendment rights is extremely high. I mean, we have some, like you can't be a felon and own a gun, and there's certain places like schools, school zones where you can't carry guns, and so. But in terms of legislation, there's a lot of overreaction out there. It's a sad scenario. My thoughts and prayers and my heart goes out to the victims there in Vegas and any shooting. But again, we need to look at the bump stock. We need to evaluate it. We don't need this to be just regulatory action. We need Congress to look at it and decide, is this effectively an automatic? If it is, then we ought to make sure that it's that we have oversight like it's an automatic. But let's get the facts. Let's have hearings. And let's make this congressional.
Congressman, we've got to take a break here, and then we'll come back for a very short return, okay?
Sounds good.
Hold on. And we're back at 7:57 a.m. We want to get right back on the phones with Congressman Arrington. Congressman, we only have a minute. I want to just turn that over to you, and you can make your elevator speech if you'd like.
Well, I'd say that the first job of the government, federal government, is to keep us safe. The rest is to keep us free, and then to hand a country that's better than we found it. This budget that I worked on the Budget Committee on behalf of West Texas, I think does all three, by reducing the deficit, by rebuilding the military, by initiating tax reform. So I'm focused on keeping us safe, strong, and free, and handing the country better to the next generation. And so thanks for the privilege of serving and representing the greatest people in the world, West Texas, and thank you guys for letting me have a platform to speak to my constituents this morning.
Anytime. Always love to have you.
Thank you, Congressman.
God bless you guys. Thanks a lot.
Have a good day, Congressman.
You too. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Yeah. There we had a good conversation this morning with the congressman from the 19th District of Texas, which is us.
That's us.
That's us.